You're listening to the English podcast That Way Experience. Me llamo David Palencia y aunque soy español, he ayudado a miles de personas a hablar inglés de verdad. Si no tienes tiempo, quieres transformarte en bilingüe y aprender con nativos a tu ritmo, recuerda que puedes unirte a mi curso a distancia That Way Tribe. El enlace es thatwaytribe.com, thatwaytribe.com. And now, the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of your favorite English show, and that's the That Way Experience podcast. David Palencia here as usual, and this is episode 81, and here I am ready to answer your questions. So today's question comes from Sergio. Sergio lives in Victoria, and he asked me about books that you can use to learn English. He said, ¿me recomiendas libros para aprender inglés, pero que tengan cierto nivel, que no sean los típicos del instituto, los finitos? Yeah, I remember those books. It was like, what was the name? Can't remember the title, but it was something like Adrian Mole's stories, or the stories of Adrian Mole. And to be honest, I was so bored of that book. It's like every single year we have to study the same book. And my sister, she's a teenager, she's doing segundo bachiller, and she's 17. And she's still reading the same book, the same bloody book. Adrian Mole's, or the story of Adrian Mole, or something like that. And I mean, poor Adrian Mole, I mean, it's not his fault, but every year, the same book, Jesus Christ. That's like, they could change the book or something. So let's talk about alternatives that you can use to enjoy reading and, learning a lot of new words at the same time, because reading is beautiful. So the first thing I'd say to you, Sergio, is to keep in mind the concept of the sweet spot. Yes, the sweet spot. So what's a sweet spot? I talked about this in the previous episodes when I answered Victor. The sweet spot is, difficulty level that you need for something to be interesting and challenging for you. If you choose books that are too easy, you're just going to waste your time. And if you try to read, 1984 in English by George Orwell, you might get demotivated, because of the language used and everything. So what you want to find is the sweet spot. It's just a book that is difficult enough, but not too difficult so you get demotivated. I suppose that's why you were asking this question, because it's difficult to find such a resource. So, just keeping that in mind, the sweet spot, I'm going to tell you a story of my favorite book and how I'm not learning new English thanks to reading, so you don't make the same mistake. My favorite book now, like the best book ever, apart from The Little Prince, which I admire, is Anti-Fragile. And this is a book by Nicholas Nassim Taleb. It's called Antifragile. This is, for me, it's like the Bible. It's mythology. It's the best book in the world, right? And it's a bit obscure. So it's really difficult to read, even in English or Spanish. It's very twisted. I mean, lots of archaic words and everything, because he's a very brilliant writer. He's a brilliant writer. He knows lots of words. He's a very educated person. He's one of the brightest people in the world right now. So when I started reading it, I thought, this is going to be perfect, because I'll get to find lots of new words and vocabulary, fancy vocabulary for my listening and for my writing and speaking, etc. But you know what happened? Sergio, I've read that book. I've been reading it for ages. I remember my ex-girlfriend, she used to tell me, like, when on earth are you going to finish that book? You'll never finish it, because it's so deep and dense that I can't just finish it in one day or in 1 week or 1 month. This is a book that you need for a lifetime. So I keep reading the book and I keep finding words that I don't know. To be honest, I'm looking at the page and I don't know those words. It's like, oh my God, you've got such a good vocabulary. But I don't know those words, even though I've seen them a lot of times. This is like the third time that I try to read Anti-Fragile. And, whenever I come across one of these difficult words, I've got the same reaction. It's like, wait, I don't know that word. I should probably write it down. But I'm too lazy now, so I'm just going to continue reading. And this is silly, but it's very powerful at the same time. And it's that you can infer the kind of meaning from a text. You can continue reading. You don't need to know every single word in a book to be able to get the gist and the main message of that book. And this is kind of, negative at the same time, because you keep reading and you forget those words. It's like, yes, I don't know that word, but I'm just going to continue reading. And the reason why you're doing that is because you're not actively trying to memorize that word. You're not actively analyzing the language. So in my case, I've been very lazy. And sometimes I think I need to learn. I need to dust my vocabulary. I need to improve because there's so much I need to improve. And you should do the same. So this is just something, for you to keep in mind. If you're going to be doing reading, if you're just passively reading, you're not going to learn the words. Even if you see those words like 20 times, you won't remember the words. So I'm going to give you another example of how I memorize a word forever. Like, I'll never forget that word. And that's the word, well, it's a phrase. It's called, it goes like, give it welly. Give it, like dale a eso, give it welly. And it's like dale caña, give it welly. And this comes from the boots, from typical English boots called Wellingtons. I suppose riders, when they did sports, polo or something, they used to kick something with the Wellingtons, with the boots. And that's why, they said, give it welly. It's like, kick it, dale caña. So give it welly. And so what I did with these words is like, I found this, I don't know where. And I was like, okay, this time I'm going to try to actively use it. And what I did is very, very simple. I just used it on a WhatsApp group that I've got with my friends, with my native friends. So the next opportunity that I found, I was like, yeah, I'm going to use this phrase. Give it welly, man. And then after that, I posted something on Twitter about the word. I said, give it welly. This is used to express dale caña. And then just with 2 writings, by writing the word or typing it twice, I'll never forget that word. So it just stuck. It got stuck in my head, and now there is no way I can forget that word. Give it welly, from Wellington boots. So you should do the same. Every single word that you want to memorize, you're going to have to use it in a real context. All right? Just remember that. So now let's talk about resources. I told you the mindset and how passively reading isn't going to help you. You need to actually use the words in a real context. And now let's talk about how you can start doing this. The first thing that I'd say to you, Sergio, is that you need a method to store the words, to collect those words. You can use a journal. You can use an application like Anki or Quizlet. I've recommended these apps a lot of times, like flashcards. Or you can use a notebook if you prefer old school writing. But just keep track of those words, so you can see how many words you're learning and you can then use them, etc. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is the resources that you're going to use, because obviously when you asked this question, you said, yeah, David, but there are a lot of difficult books. I can't just read the Bible in English. So I'm just going to give you some sources. The first one is by Cambridge University Press, and that's called Graded Readers. Graded Readers. These are books. It's basically literature that's been adapted to different levels. So you've got a grading system from 0 to 10, and that just varies depending on the level. So if you find a number 1, it's going to be beginner. If you find a number 5, it's going to be intermediate. And if you do read a number 7, that's going to be pretty advanced. So what you want to do is you want to find these graded readers by Cambridge and just find a number that is adapted to your level. And of course, Cambridge provides you with a kind of, with some guidelines. So you know the equivalents. Like number 4 is for a B1. Number 7 is for a B2 and so on. So just, look them up. Just go to Google and type graded readers from Cambridge. And you will see lots of different books. They come up with such varied genres and everything. You can find, like drama, romance, thrillers, crime stories. Lots of things. It depends on your taste, I suppose. So that's the first resource. And something brilliant about these books is that they come with a CD, so you can listen to the audio. How cool is that? You can read the book and at the same time listen to the audio. So you can see the pronunciation of the words and everything. It's brilliant, hands down. I used graded readers when I was studying Estudios Ingleses, Filología. And I remember that, one of our teachers, they actually asked us to get one of those books. And I got, it was called This Time It's Personal. It was a B2 level, I think, or advanced. And it was a crime story. I love detective stories. And I had a ball. I had the best time ever, while reading the book and listening to it. It was brilliant. So yeah, graded readers by Cambridge. Then another one that you can use is Penguin Readers. And this is basically the same, but this is from Oxford. Oxford, so posh, right? I mean, yeah, Oxford Press or University Press. It's the same as graded readers, but I'm not sure if they come with a CD. So from my experience, I've only used graded readers, but I've been told Penguin Readers, they provide you with such a wide, range of different genres and different type of literature, etc. So that's supposed to be really good as well, right? Then something else that you can use is called Simple English Wikipedia. And, the name is quite self-explanatory. Simple English Wikipedia is a simpler version of the Wikipedia, of the famous Wikipedia, just with simple language. And say that you look up an article about, DNA, right? ADN. And it might be too daunting to do that with just plain English, right? With plain English, with technical English, like advanced vocabulary and words and scientific slang. But if you look up the same article, DNA, on Simple English Wikipedia, it will show you an article about DNA, but just with simpler words so that everyone can understand. So this is a simpler version of the Wikipedia adapted to English learners. I think this is out of this world. It's such an amazing resource. So every time that you need to look up something, what you can do is to try to find that on Simple English Wikipedia instead of Wikipedia. So if you want to look up information about a famous figure in the past, like Gandhi, don't go to Wikipedia. Go to Simple English Wikipedia. That's going to be good for your level. Then something else that I've seen people use is Audible. I don't know how technically it works, but Audible is like a battery, like a bank of audiobooks that you can download. And I think when you sign up and you create an account, you can get the first audiobook for free. So you don't have to pay. And I think that's brilliant that you can, choose any book in the world and just find the audio version. That's really good as well. Then on YouTube, you can go to YouTube and just type, this is going to have to be classics, obviously, because of copyright and because it's free. But for example, as I said, The Little Prince, El Principito, that's one of my favorite books. So you type The Little Prince and then audiobook. And you'll find someone who was kind enough to read the book for you and record it and upload it to YouTube. So you can find lots of audio versions of your favorite books just on YouTube. So that's a good suggestion as well. Then finally, a final resource that you can use is called Voice of America Learning English. VOA. 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 It sounds like VOA. VOA Learning English. This is an American newspaper that I've recommended lots of times on my blog. And it comes with different articles like media and pieces of news and everything. But they are read by a news reporter. And you can slow down the audio, I think, or it's already slowed down. And yeah, you can just read the news, listen to the news at the same time by just clicking on a button, on a play button. And these, the piece of news is read by a native speaker, positive as well, important. But yeah, as you can see, Sergio, there are lots of resources that you can use. I said graded readers, Penguin Readers, Simple English Wikipedia, Audible, YouTube with audio versions, and Voice of America, VOA Learning English. Lots of reading resources, and my personal recommendation is that you use something that is a story. I mean, I don't know about your case, obviously, it takes all sorts. Everyone is different. But in my case, I prefer to listen to something that has a story, something that I can follow along like for example, a crime story or a romance, a drama, or Harry Potter, things like that. Because I don't know why, but because I get more engaged when it's a story. So if I have to find a website with reading exercises, I find it so boring. So I prefer to listen to a story or to read Game of Thrones books and things like that. So you just need to be careful with the level, as I said, so that you don't try to learn something that is too difficult for you. Just try to find the sweet spot. Then a final recommendation, as I said, is that the only way you're going to memorize all these words is by writing them, putting them into practice. There are lots of ways you can do this. As I said, just keep a journal of the words that you're learning and then try to use those words. There are different contexts that you can use to do this. One could be to write a review. So for example, if you're reading a Cambridge Graded Reader book and you want to go to Cambridge website and just leave a review, a testimonial, like, oh, I love this book because it talks about the crime, blah, 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 blah. Or on Facebook, you can leave a review in English, obviously. You can also write a summary of that book to practice. You can write to your teacher, like as part of your homework, like, I'm just going to read the book and I'll write a summary to you, or I'll give you a review. You can post something on Facebook, like just post something in English and you speak about the last book that you read, and then you get an opportunity to use the words. You can publish something on forums. Lots of different contexts, but remember that I always tell you the truth. If you don't use it in a real context, it doesn't matter how many times you read the book. You could be ages all your life reading the book and you'll never learn the words, because I've got a list of words that I need to learn from that anti-fragile book. So it's about time I started studying. So that was my answer to you, Sergio, and to anyone listening who wants to start using books to learn English. That was episode 21 of the DAWI Experience. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you had a good time. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. You were listening to the English podcast DAWI Experience. Recuerda, además de todo el contenido gratuito de la web DAWI Inglés, si quieres aprender inglés pero no tienes tiempo, puedes unirte a mi programa exclusivo a distancia DAWI Tribe. Aprenderás a tu ritmo, de forma flexible y con nativos. El enlace es dawitribe.com, dawitribe.com. Enjoy life and be happy.